Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome aboard Top Gun Options and Trading the Death Star, the only stock you need to own for the rest of your life. So, folks, make sure there's no distractions. Silence that electronic nicotine because you've never heard what I'm about to tell you. Now, grew up watching Star Wars. I have some kids that love the Star Wars franchise as well. We've all heard of the Death Star, right? That giant space station the size of the moon that was literally taking over the universe. Got attacked a couple times by some teenagers in a flying Winnebago. Blown up, rebuilt, got even stronger. That's the stock we're going to talk about today. I call it the Death Star because it's taking over absolutely everything it touches. Now, Top Gun Options, a little bit of a fighter pilot background and fighter aviation slant to everything. So I'm going to give you a multiple choice quiz right now. Which fighter aircraft would you rather fly into combat? Don't have to know anything about fighter aviation or combat, but here's your first choice. Take a look at that cockpit. It gives me agita just even looking at this. This is the cockpit of an F-4 Phantom. Over 300 switches and dials in that cockpit. The pilot would spend a lot of what we call heads down time looking at all this stuff instead of eyeballs out of the cockpit, looking for enemy aircraft or SAMs, surface-to-air missiles, or AAA, anti-aircraft artillery. Very complicated aircraft, matter of fact. It was so complicated, they threw another dude in the back seat just to run the radar. Okay, so that's your first choice. F-4 Phantom. Or, here is your second choice. It's an F-35 Lightning, the Joint Strike Fighter, ladies and gentlemen. Take a look at that cockpit. 2 flat panel displays. We call this jet the Wonder Woman jet. It's invisible to radar. When the pilot looks down with his Gucci helmet, he doesn't see the cockpit or the jet. He sees through it. This jet is so smart, it actually limits the amount of information displayed to the pilot at any given portion of the flight so that he or her can focus on mission critical stuff. So, F-35 Lightning, you absolutely would rather fly into combat today. What's this have to do with trading? Everything, ladies and gentlemen. Trading is a form of combat. Somebody's going to win and somebody's going to get their ass kicked. Take a look at the F-35 helmet. The guy actually looks like Darth Vader. Okay, so my promise, by the end of this brief, you're going to get an up-to-date intelligence brief with what's going on. I'm going to show you you heard me, the only stock you need to own. And if that doesn't make sense to you, I'm going to give you a good substitute to trade. Real quick, why should you listen to me? How's the smart money doing? You ever hear a hedge fund and you're at a cocktail party and like, oh, I'm in a hedge fund and you think it's a big deal? It isn't. Take a look at the performance of the average hedge fund for the past, call it 5 years or so. 10%, 11, 10, negative 8, 9%. Are you kidding me? Take a look at how I did last year. Look at the Dow, about 10%, S&P about 20%. The NASDAQ crushed it at 38%. How about me? 151% return. Maybe that's why you should listen to me. I destroyed the market. I destroyed the so-called smart money. So sit up straight and listen to me. Who's me? My name is Matthew Buckley. My call sign is Whiz. I flew the F-18 Hornet for the United States Navy for about 15 years, graduated from the Navy Fighter Weapons School. That's a lot of words to say Top Gun, where I was an adversary pilot. I was a bad guy. I deployed for Operation Southern Watch and then also for Noble Eagle and Enduring Freedom. What's this have to do with trading? Well, everything. I applied as a young naval aviator everything I was learning as a fighter pilot to my trading, right? You don't join the Navy to get rich. You join the Navy to see the world, defend your country, and bring justice to bad guys. But there was incredible parallels. Like I said, trading's a form of combat. So having a strategy, implementing tactics, contingency planning, right? Knowing when to get out of a good or bad situation before it got any worse. Managing risk. Okay, this guy's showing me a picture of him inverted over the skies of Top Gun. He's going to talk about risk management to me? Yeah, I am. As a fighter pilot, as an options trader, we want to minimize or eliminate all known risks, right? Flying off an aircraft carrier at night in bad weather is dangerous enough, let alone doing stupid things, okay? So All of that worked extremely well because I ended up popping up on the radar of one of the largest volatility options trading firms in the world, headquartered right there in the CBOT. If you've ever watched Batman, you know downtown Chicago right there. See those big vertical windows right there in the Chicago Board of Trade? That was my trading firm. I helped build a hedge fund when I was there, helped build the retail brokerage called Options House, and just had an absolute blast. I was the managing director of strategy for this multi-billion-dollar firm. Then I founded the Options News Network. We were the CNBC for options, right? We'd shoot on the floor of the CBO and the CBOT and give folks like you a behind-the-scenes look at what was going on in the options market. Okay, a little bit about me. Let's go ahead and get airborne. Fights on. Now, this is either going to shock you or it's not going to shock you. It's always funny when I brief folks on this. Here's some shocking news, or maybe not. Wall Street's lying to you. Yeah, okay, duh, Whiz. Well, you're probably sitting there going, what exactly are they lying to me about this time? How many of you have heard on day one of investing school, right? You can't put all your eggs in one basket, right? They froth at the mouth that you can't do that. Why? You have to diversify, Whiz. That's what they tell me. Diversification's important. The 5 tips, the this, it. Absolute insanity. Diversify. They're lying to you. Well, who's lying to me, Whiz? That guy. Ladies and gentlemen, whenever you hear the word broker, whether it's airplane, yacht, real estate, stock, delete the word and insert the word commission. These people get paid on what's called churn. It's an industry practice that technically is against the law, but guess what? They do it, right? They want you in and out of as many names as humanly possible, right? You ever see The Wolf of Wall Street or the movie Wall Street, right? All right, boys, pick up the phones. Let's start dialing, right? Get the little old lady in tennis shoes out of the stock we got them in yesterday and into this new one. Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. They get paid on you being in and out of as many names as humanly possible. It is an absolute lie. Now, I'm going to be blunt. I'm a fighter pilot. I don't have time not to be blunt. Diversification is for stupid people. Now, if that offends you, let me get an old man to clean that up a little bit. Diversification is a protection against ignorance. It makes very little sense for those who know what they're doing. That's a lot of words to say that diversification is for stupid people. Folks, the only stock you need to own for the rest of your life is Amazon. Period. It is diversified in and of itself. Now, I'm a poor kid from South Jersey, South Philadelphia, and a political science major, so I need pictures, right? Real quick, hedge fund, a recent hedge fund chief investment officer. Real wealth is not generated by diversification. It's built through concentration. Amen. But ladies and gentlemen, again, poor kid, South Jersey, South Philadelphia, I need maps and charts and nice drawings. Look at this chart, folks. Net revenue in billions. This is what we call a hockey stick. This thing is going straight up. It literally prints money, folks. Look at the annual revenue by segment. I remember in 2013, 2012, AWS. Folks, AWS, Amazon Web Services, is Microsoft. It's its own tech company. It didn't even exist 11 years ago. Folks, look, or however many years ago, it is going straight up. The North American, international AWS folks, it's just insane. Now, when you think of the cloud, what do you think of? Well, Google or Microsoft or Apple, oh, the cloud, ooh, you'd be wrong. The cloud infrastructure services market is dominated by Amazon, folks. It owns the cloud. Everything else, all these other companies are silver, bronze, and not even medalists, okay? They own the cloud. Now, I'm going to get political for a couple minutes. What do you mean? Democrats hate this chart. Well, why? You ready? Buckle up. If you showed me, delete the word Amazon up on the slide, and if I was, 30 years ago when I started investing, you said, Whiz, would you invest in this company? I'd look at it, and I'd look over here and go, oh my God, look at the sales. This thing prints money. Then I'd go down here and look at free cash flow. I'd be like, okay, well, they make a ton of money, and then that's the free cash flow. And then I'd look all the way down there. Look at that, folks. Profit. Whoa, this company barely makes any money. I would short this stock. I wouldn't buy it, and I'd be an idiot. Why? Well, Whiz, why'd you say Democrats hate this chart? Because Jeff Bezos, ladies and gentlemen, is brilliant. Love him or hate him, folks. He's a brilliant businessman. He doesn't know what the word dividend means because if he makes any money, if he makes a profit, what does he do with that money? He puts it right back into the company. I'm going to buy another airplane, put a competitor out of business, buy a new this. They reinvest all of their profit, ladies and gentlemen, and put it back into the company. So it barely shows any profit. Folks, this is brilliant. And that's why Democrats hate it, because, we need to tax this awful company. And then, well, guess what? It barely makes any profit. Okay. Now, AI this, AI that, AI everything, ladies and gentlemen, right? Amazon announces their own supercomputer, their new server powered by homegrown AI chips. If you're one of these people that just frosts at the mouth about NVIDIA, I guarantee you Amazon is going to put NVIDIA out of business. Jeff Bezos is the type of guy that looks at his monthly P&L and says, wow, we're spending a lot of money on these NVIDIA chips. Yeah, okay, let's build our own and better and faster and cheaper. That's going to happen, ladies and gentlemen. So real quick, let's look at these case studies from current solo Amazon members. With a small account, trading Whiz's Amazon trades netted $8,900 in 1 week. Okay, you guys are amazing, Kristen. I trade a smaller account, and I've done 22 Amazon trades this year for about a $31,000 profit. Christine, month-to-date profits on Amazon, 107 grand to go with more to go. Thanks, Whiz, for your expertise and guidance doing day trades with short calls to protect my Amazon profits, learning from the best. And Ann made me look like I'm brand new. Ann, Monday through Wednesday, November 15 to 17, in 3 days, I made over $90,000 on short calls against her 30 contracts utilizing my guidance. Ladies and gentlemen, that's awesome. But as a fighter pilot, as an options trader, as your instructor, I got to brief you on the risks of trading just one stock, right? There are risks. I'm going to brief you. Any of you ever hear of a small mom and pop company, Lehman Brothers? 150-year-old company gone in hours. How about Bear Stearns? Whoa. Jim Cramer knows about Bear Stearns, doesn't he? At the height of the financial crisis, Bear Stearns is safe. Your money stays there. You're an idiot if you don't, buy Bear Stearns here. A couple days later, it was at zero. Good call, Jim. How about Pets.com? How about Enron? We can spend the rest of our time together walking through the graveyard of stocks that go to zero. But what's the common theme between all of these names I just showed you? They didn't own a thing. Enron was a middleman of electricity. Hell, they didn't even own the building they were in Houston. Pets.com owned a stinky sock puppet and a domain name. Bear Stearns, Lehman Brothers, they owned nothing. It doesn't even look like Lehman Brothers owned the sign on the building. They were a counterparty. They owned paper. So, ladies and gentlemen, stocks can go to zero. Can Amazon go to zero? Technically, yes. What do you mean technically? It can't. Well, why? It owns things. About 10 years ago, I did consulting out just south of Miami International at an Amazon fulfillment center. I know I've been around an aircraft carrier a little bit, and the flight deck I thought was one of the most chaotic places on the planet. This Amazon fulfillment center made the flight deck of a carrier look calm and peaceful. It was the size of an aircraft carrier, and robots and people, it looked like chaos. It was huge. So they own real estate. They own things, ladies and gentlemen. Full disclosure, I started when I left active duty in the Navy, got hired by FedEx to go be a rich airline pilot. That's a whole separate story because I left FedEx, went to American, and my first and last day at work at American was 9/11. But anyway, I bring this up because after leaving FedEx, when was it? About 10 years ago? I forget exactly. A buddy, I stayed in touch with a lot of my buddies at FedEx. One of them went to corporate, right? He took off his, flying suit and went and put on a suit and tie. Anyway, he called me one day and he said, "Hey, Whiz, who's Jeff Bezos? I'm like, he owns Amazon. Why? He's like, well, that's weird because a buddy of mine at GE Aircraft Leasing said he just leased a couple jets, like 5 jets. I'm like, he's going to do it. And he's like, well, what's he going to do? I said, he's going to put you out of business. My buddy laughed at me and hung up the phone, right? Well, guess who laughed at him recently and hung up the phone back at him? I did. Look at these headlines, ladies and gentlemen. Amazon is now shipping cargo for outside customers in its latest move to compete with FedEx and UPS. Look at the date, September of 2021. Next headline, November of 20, months later, Amazon poised to pass UPS and FedEx to become the largest U.S. delivery service by early 2022. And this headline at beginning of 2024, the biggest delivery business in the U.S. is no longer UPS or FedEx. Amazon is eclipsing both carriers and the gap is growing. Why would you buy UPS or FedEx stock, folks, when you can have Amazon? Absolute insanity. As a matter of fact, FedEx recently begged for help, forgiveness. Hey, can you come back or help us? We're in a little bit of problem, man. How about this? Fred Smith started FedEx with what? I think he got a C+ or a C- at Harvard Business School on his business plan for FedEx. Delivering a package in 24 hours around the world. That's what a dumb concept. Those who can't teach. Nice job, professor. Why do I bring that up? Because look at what Amazon's doing. Why would you go to CVS or Walgreens where everything's locked in plastic? You want a toothbrush? Order it on Amazon and it might be there within an hour. Hell, they're using drones, ladies and gentlemen. I said years ago, Walgreens and CVS pounded into the dirt. Why? You're going to get a text that says, go to your front door. You're going to open it, a drone will scan your face and drop your prescription in your hand. Or you'll go out to your driveway. A driverless Amazon blue truck will be there. That will be electric. Why? Because drivers want to unionize. They need to take a leak. They want a 401k and health benefits. Gone. Now that sounds, I'm Gordon Gekko right now, folks. If you want a friend, get a dog, right? So this is happening. You're going to enter a pin on the side of the blue truck and the door will pop open and your package will come out, man. No humans at all. So folks, this is Amazon is diversified in and of itself. And we already talked about the AI stuff. Years ago, I told Top Gun Options members, you want a couple of great bearish trades? Pound Walgreens and CVS into the dirt. New Amazon clinics are in 50 states. CVS lays off employees. Walgreens closing 8,600 stores. Stock tests new lows, ladies and gentlemen. I told you. And the people who listened to me and shorted these names got filthy rich, right? Whoa, why is this guy on the screen? Well, again, he's our current president, but this, I actually was talking about his first presidency. Why do I bring this up? Because there are political risks. His first presidency, Donald Trump woke up one morning or didn't go to bed, depends on who you believe, grabbed a cell phone and said what? Jeff Bezos, Amazon, monopoly, somebody needs to do something about it. Unbelievable monopoly. Whoa. The president of the United States tweeting about Amazon being a monopoly. What happened? Stock went down. Oh my God, the president, he's coming after us. Then what happened? Nothing. Or not nothing. The last year, he didn't know it was going to be his last year, but the last year of Trump's presidency, he also picked up his phone, tweeted and said, Washington Post, Amazon, Jeff Bezos, awful. Somebody needs to shut him down. What happened that day? Stock went up. So, ladies and gentlemen, there is political risks with a big name like this, Amazon. But I am old enough, and I know my history, to remember Standard Oil or AT&T or Microsoft or IBM. From when Uncle Sam says, hey, you might be a monopoly, we're going to look into you. At the quickest, it takes 5 years. On the outside, it takes 15. So let's say an average of 10 years, ladies and gentlemen, to bust a company up. But guess what? Right now, Amazon is Mercury, folks. What do I mean by that? If you try and smash Amazon right now, you'd make 12 you'd make 12 monopolies in other industries. So this is, it's too big to break up right now. And if they did break it up, I'd buy all 12 of the whatever they broke it up into. Real quick, James Woods. Remember a couple of years ago, people were walking out of Lululemon or these stores shoplifting and, employees would like film them. What did Lululemon do? They fired the employees, right? Just so everybody understands the game here, Lululemon and these other national brand stores don't care about theft. Why? Because A, this crap is in fact virtually worthless, and B, they would rather sell it online. No fuss, no muss, no employees. When you see the stores locking everything up behind glass and forcing customers to select from a kiosk, it's a way to avoid excessive minimum wages to human workers and lawsuits from the sales staff loonies who weren't addressed by their mythical pronouns. Anyway, invest in Amazon, folks. Pretty soon, it'll be the only marketplace left. And he's right. So, folks, I'll tell you how I feel as Whiz. I can't stand Jeff Bezos. He doesn't play. He's a limousine liberal, doesn't pay his employees, blah, 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 blah. Guess what? Nobody cares, Whiz. If you want a friend, get a dog. I'm here to teach you how to print money, and Amazon is the way to do it. Okay? Now, brief the risks. What are the benefits of just trading a single stock? Well, you trade the same name and potentially profit no matter what direction Amazon moves, up, down, or sideways. You stay focused on the news and events that impact Amazon instead of a bunch of different stocks and ETFs. You become an expert in Amazon, reducing time spent on other positions. Let me tell you a quick story. When I moved from Chicago to start Top Gun Options, a doctor wrote me in Boca Raton, God's waiting room, where I live. Whiz, I hear you're a good trader. I need help, man. I office hours and surgeries, and I just don't, I'm looking at my phone in between, appointments. Help. I met him at Starbucks. Thank God he's a doctor because I passed out and hit my head and almost died. Why? He booted up his laptop, spun it around at me with his brokerage platform. He had 33 names. He had 33 positions, folks. It was stunning to me. He tried to brief me, right? Oh, okay, well, I'm like, what is this? He goes, well, okay, I think this one's a pot stock. I'm like, did you just say you think? Next, okay, well, this one's a surgical stock, and a buddy got me into it, and, it's down 50%, but once it gets back to where I bought it, I'm going to sell it. I'm like, Doc, you're a doc, right? He's like, yeah, why? I'm like, you're supposed to be reasonably intelligent and maybe know math a little bit. What's a stock that's down 50% have to do to get back to where you bought it? I'm like, stop. I don't even want to know what the rest of this stuff is. Get out of everything and get into Amazon. I saw this headline, and it also made me fall out of my chair. Jim Cramer, right? He has a stock club, and invest in my stock club. This was a headline. This is like 10 years after my doc at Starbucks. But look at this headline. Here's a rapid fire update on all 33 portfolio stocks, including 2 more we're going to throw in there. Are you insane? We literally could take a room full of monkeys with darts and throw them at the Wall Street Journal and do better than Jim Cramer. This is insanity. Ladies and gentlemen, simplify your trading cockpit with Amazon. Now, if you're digging what I'm laying down right now, but you're like, you know what, Whiz, I can't. I was bitten in the neck by the diversification vampire, and I have got to diversify. I can't just invest in Amazon. Great. Here's the alternative for you. We also trade in our solo Amazon service XLY, the consumer discretionary ETF. A buddy of mine used to tell me that shrimp are a vehicle for eating cocktail sauce. The XLY is a vehicle for eating Amazon. Take a look at what is in this consumer discretionary ETF. 22% of it is Amazon. But look at the rest. Tesla, Home Depot, McDonald's, Lowe's, TJX, Booking, Starbucks, Nike, Chipotle. Ladies and gentlemen, we also trade XLY for those of you who are like, I have to diversify, Whiz. So trade, you get a healthy dose of Amazon and you get your diversification. So how do we target Amazon and XLY for max profit? Step 1, when you join, you're going to be a Marine. You're going to land on the beach. You're going to establish a beachhead, what we call a base position, years out into the future. If you know nothing about options, I'm going to teach you. We have something called Options Weapons School, okay? But I'm going to show you a couple tactics, either synthetic stock or a long call diagonal with protective puts. I never went flying in the F-18 and told the chief, hey, chief, pull the ejection seat out. Why? well, I'm awesome and I'm not going to use it today. Wrong. That would have been the day I died because I didn't have an ejection seat. So I'm going to show you how to establish a long-term base position, bullish on Amazon, years into the future. Then what are we going to do? We're going to trade the front months. What are the front months? You're sitting in a front month, folks, right? March, April, May, whatever it is. So there's two positions right there. Long-term bullish position on Amazon, and then whatever is going on in the front month. Oh man, all the tech names are getting hammered. Amazon's going down. Who cares? We're years bullish into the future. We can trade a bearish position in the front month, right? You can be bipolar, and so can I. Up, bullish spreads, long calls, down, bear spreads, buy some puts or sideways. Yeah, we can actually make trading options. We can make money if a stock is trading sideways. And I'm going to teach you all of these things, ladies and gentlemen. Simplify your trading cockpit with Amazon and or XLY. Trading is a form of combat, folks. There's going to be a winner and there's going to be a loser. And at Top Gun Options, I'm going to put you on the winning side. So click the link below for more information on the industry-leading solo Amazon program, and I will see you in our live briefing room. Fights on, namaste, and basi basi. Whiz out.